So she suffered severe traumatic brain injury, 2 fractures in the spine, a broken jaw. Her left ear was torn apart. Until someone gets conscious after 2 broken spines, we don't actually know whether she will actually walk again.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Toughest Finish Line podcast with me, Jen Doan. I hope you've all had a good couple of weeks. I've finally hit taper time, ready for Leeds Ironman on the 27th of July, which I'm super excited for, but also slightly worried about the hill climbs on the bike. But I'm sure it will be okay. And when things get hard, I'm going to keep thinking about the guests that we've had so far on the podcast and how they've come through some really tough situations. And that's what's going to keep me going. This week, we are speaking to an incredible lady who has had more than her fair share of tough finish lines, including battling cancer and coming back from a horrific bike accident that left her unconscious for 4 weeks. So welcome to the show, Lucia, and your husband, who just so happens to be your coach, Holger. Thank you so much for giving your time up this evening to come and speak with us. And Lucia, I've had some chats with you, and your story really just inspired me so much because life has thrown you some pretty horrific challenges, which you seem like you've just got back up and kept going. And I really just wanted to share your story on the podcast to hopefully inspire others who might be going through that tough time. So let's go back a few years, because I know you were into triathlon and competing quite a bit. And is it right that you came third in the Taiwan Ironman 70.3?
That's right. It was a surprise to myself as well. And I didn't go to the prize giving ceremony because I didn't know I was in. It's only afterwards when I passed the organization office, I see my name there. And then I went to get my trophy, and just me, without any audience, get the trophy, has a picture.
Wow, I mean, that's a huge achievement in itself to come third at a big event like that. However, not long after that, you were diagnosed with cancer, weren't you? Can you tell us a little bit about how you were diagnosed and the treatment you had for that first round of cancer?
The first round of cancer, it was diagnosed actually by the English doctor, which they have delayed after I tell them the symptoms. They couldn't find out. And finally they found out it. Then I had the first operation in 2014. 2014 in after my first Ironman race in UK. I purposely put the cancer operation the time right after the race because I couldn't move and I had to lay down for several days anyway. So it was a good time to do the operation. But for the first cancer treatment, I made a mistake because I didn't go through chemotherapy. I thought that will harm my body, and I only changed my diet to ketogenic diet because my cancer cells love carbohydrate, love sugar, and then changed to ketogenic diet. I only take protein. However, the cancer came back because I didn't go through chemotherapy.
Right.
So I really encourage any woman who fight breast cancer, they should do their maximum treatment right on to prevent this coming back.
Yeah, definitely to protect yourself. And obviously you don't know at the time, do you? And you do what you feel is right for you. But yeah, it kind of led to it coming back and needing later treatment, which we will talk about in a bit more detail. But despite you being diagnosed with cancer and having to go through treatment and different diets and all of that, you set your sights on qualifying and competing in the Ironman World Championships, didn't you? What was it about racing and that race in particular that you just wanted to keep training for?
It's Ironman. When I started triathlon in China, I was always on the top list because at that time, triathlon just started in China. And so many women, so many families, they start to follow me, and they are inspired to do sports and to get active. And I was very inspired by the support, by the reaction. So I really think that to go to Ironman would be my dream target at that time. And also that for our practice, for our daily life, we really think that to find your limit, to find your utmost boundary and then break it. That's how you improve, how you make progress in life. So that was very exciting when I found out I could do triathlon, I could do 70.3, and I could do Ironman.
Yeah, definitely. It's pushing those boundaries, isn't it? And just seeing how far you can go and inspire others, which is brilliant. And I know you were training for the Zurich Ironman, um, and to help on your journey to Kona and qualification. And something really horrific happened around that time, wasn't it? Where you were involved in a bike accident. And I don't know how much you remember of that, and maybe Holger, you can chip in as well at this part, this time. But can you describe what happened with that bike accident?
Actually, I had such brain damage, I couldn't remember what happened. And so Holger has saved my life. So he was there all the time. And so he's better at describe the situation.
I can happily do that. I mean, there might be a little bit of a benefit that Lucia has no memory, because otherwise she might have fear of biking again. I mean, if you have a bad memory, then sometimes fear sort of becomes a mental blocker. Even though, she's very cautious now, but that's more because I remind her. But what actually happened is we were both riding the day before the Zurich Ironman, part of the track again, just to get warmed up and familiarized. And Lucia was a bit of a downhill. Everything is a bit of up and down in Switzerland, and she got carried wide in a right turn, and the car came up on the left, and then both of them crashed frontally. So she crashed frontally in an oncoming car, which is pretty much the worst which can happen in a bike accident. And in all fairness, most likely Lucia wouldn't be here today if you weren't in Switzerland, because there immediately you get a helicopter sent. It was near Zurich, where they get you to the university hospital in Zurich, which is obviously one of the best hospitals in the world, because Lucia suffered because of the crash and the impact, severe traumatic brain injury, and you have not much, a lot of time before your brain, with all the pressure which is building up, stops functioning. So at the end of the day, she suffered severe traumatic brain injury, 2 fractures in the spine, a broken jaw. So she still has some metal in there. Her left ear was torn apart. She spent about 3 weeks in coma. But luckily, a few emergency operations, a lot of good doctors, and later a lot of rehabilitation helped that she got back to learning how to walk on a rollator, learning how to walk with sticks. But less than 6 months later, she ran her first half marathon again.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. So less than 6 months later, the first
Yeah.
half marathon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and
we have to.
it was actually went back to China on an island. I thought I'd take a rest there, but then they have half marathon there, so I got in and then I won it.
You
It's
won it.
impressive. Yeah, I was they have 2 days. Every day is a half marathon, so 2 days add up to a marathon. And the first day I was the number one in girls, in women. I was very surprised. And then the second day it was raining and I don't have any gear. So I was just number 4.
Yeah, it was a rather regional half marathon, but I think what happened and what helped Lucia is that sort of traditional medical knowledge was if you had such a severe injury, she had, for example, to rely walking, and because of the broken spine, she couldn't move for nearly 2 months her spine. But we got her later to a hospital in Germany where they do rehabilitation while being in intensive care. So she started sort of relearning her muscle memory while being in intensive care. In most hospitals, sort of, you get not only out of intensive care, you get out of the hospital, and then later you start rehabilitation. But there it was one of a few specialty clinics for these sort of treatment where you start being in an intensive care unit, you start rehabilitation. And I think, I'm not a doctor, but it sounds very plausible. What we learned is that, the earlier you start,
Yeah.
the more muscle memory and everything comes back. I think you see the same, Jen, when you have other injuries. In the old days, you got a cast and were sent to rest for 2 months. Now, you start physio. If you have a meniscus operation, you start physio 3 days after the operation. Everything has changed a bit. And I think medical knowledge helped us here.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had the right medical team at the right time there with you. And Lucia, do you remember coming round from that? What are your earliest memories from that?
My earliest memory is actually when I woke up. I didn't know what has happened. I somehow, in more than 3 weeks, deep coma, and I saw my brother, I saw my father, and I they were in a beautiful mountain, and I tell them, why do you guys have holiday here? And I go with you guys. So I read the book before when someone is going to die, they see their loved ones and to welcome them to the another world. So that was what happened to me in my coma. And my brother, my father, they carried me happily to their mountain holiday home. And I was so happy to go with them. And then suddenly, after halfway, I said, no, wait, I didn't tell Holger. He didn't know I go to holiday with you guys. I
Oh,
need to run back to tell him. Otherwise, he gets worried. But then they said, please go back to tell Holger. But then I said, no, if I go back, you guys will run away. So I hold them. Then they said, we will wait for you and you go back. Don't worry. So I run back and look back. They're still there. And I run back and finally I run back to the village and I saw Holger. When I woke up, I was so happy. I felt that I told Holger, now I can go back to find my brother and
oh,
father. And then I was so cheerful because I have no memory. But a few days later, Holger came and he saw me crying and stressed. And then he asked me what's wrong. Then I asked him, did it really happen that my brother, my father, they have died, they have gone away? Holger said yes.
right.
And then I asked him, is it a long time ago? And he said, yes, they have passed away a long time ago. And then I crashed. I said, this is the worst day of my life. I didn't realize I was injured and couldn't move. And
But you have to say, I think, apart from a near-death experience, even a few weeks after, with all the injuries in the hospital, it was still intensive care.
Hmm.
Lucia was full of morphines.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it helps. Drugs and the near-death experience does most likely something.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination from a near-death experience, but also, of course, a very heavy dosage of medication. I mean, sounds better than drugs, but the medication Lucia got, other people would happily pay for.
oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, thank goodness, Holger, that she thought of you and she came running back to you, so that she's still with us today. And I think definitely with your support, it's the reason that, by the sounds of it, that Lucia, you're still with us today.
Yeah, it was somehow to me that was a wonderful experience, um, and when I came back, I was so stressed that to realize my father, my brother, they have gone. But Holger was happy because it means my memory is coming back a little.
Yeah. So had you lost all memory prior to the accident, or was there bits you remembered?
No, I think Lucia, there's sort of the week before the accident is gone.
Right.
So the last thing she remembered was actually the triathlon in Roth the weekend before.
Right.
But well, she was just a supporter because two full distances within a week would have been too much. But otherwise, pretty much everything came back. But medically, it is something you need to be cautious because emotionally, your life comes back in a few weeks as you remember it, but you don't have years of time you had maybe to sort of work out the death of a loved one. Now things come back, and emotionally, that's not an easy situation because suddenly your life flies back in a super fast forward thing. So ultimately, um, everything came back, but it is something where neurologists, etc., they help you in these situations because initially we thought, we showed Lucia a lot of pictures about her past to help her, but they said, slow down, don't
Right.
give her everything which has happened
Yeah.
in one afternoon, because rationally you can take it, but your life has events which might emotionally be too much of a burden.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, it was for my brain damage and the injury. I was not eligible to act on my own. So when I insisted to check out of the hospital, the
Neurologist.
neurologist talked to me to check if I can act normal, if my intelligence has gone from infant to child to teenager to grown up, so they can then they are allowed to release me. And then the hospital talked to me. Then they actually said I'm okay to go home, but I'm not eligible to sign any documents to go alone
Right.
out of the house by myself. I must be supervised. I must be guarded. And the only person can do that is Holger. So he was very happy. Finally, he can decide what I do.
Yeah. But okay, it's
Finally.
that is the emotional part. It's a bit more legal because, of course, while she was unconscious, you have
Yeah.
documents which need to be signed, etc. So we have that for each other. But obviously, when you get out of the hospital after such a difficult situation, you get out of the hospital, but you're not 100% healthy. It's just you get out, but there was a lot of rehabilitation work
That's
with,
right.
with a lot of different doctors. You had special physiotherapy because the jaw was broken twice.
Right.
And Lucia still has
Yeah,
titanium in here.
the nails are still here to secure my jaw.
And so you had to work a little bit with speech and everything, but you were legally released just a few weeks afterwards.
That's right. And after I left the hospital for half a year, any documents I sign is not eligible. I
Right.
cannot sell my house and sign it. And so Holger was in charge of everything.
I
And
mean,
he's happy.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility, Holger, isn't it?
It is, but we managed.
I've been wearing Luca's cycling kit for around a year now, and it's genuinely benefited my training so much. Luca is a premium women's cycling wear brand created by women for women. Born from the frustration of ill-fitting gear and the outdated shrink it and pink it approach, Luca is here to set a new standard. For performance, for design, and for women, their pieces are made to move with you. Crafted in Portugal from high-performance Italian fabrics, tested by a community of female cyclists, and worn by GB athletes like Sian Rainsley. It's more than cycling wear. It's a movement towards empowerment, confidence, and redefining what women's sportswear should be. I've personally found Luca kit to be unbelievably comfortable, and particularly on those longer rides. But also, it looks amazing and is super functional. It really does motivate me to get out on my bike. As a listener of this podcast, you can use my code ToughestFinishLine to get a little something off your first order at rideluca.com. Holger, I wanted to ask you because, we'll talk about Lucia and how she made it through, but actually for you, watching your loved one go through something like that, I can't even begin to imagine. How did you keep going and keep strong during that time?
Put it this way, there are two sides of the story. One is, of course, I don't want to repeat that experience.
Yeah.
I wish no one has to go through that because, there was a time we didn't know that Lucia survived. And even though, later she was, for example, sent with a whole body through a CT scan, but until someone gets conscious after two broken spines, you don't actually know whether she will actually walk again. Even doctors say when we checked the nerves, we didn't see any damage. It doesn't mean when you wake up, there is no damage.
Yeah.
So the whole time of sort of Lucia being unconscious is a time where you have a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. But, the way I think the best way I found to deal with it is actually make sure I understand the situation most and see what's best for her.
Yeah.
And, sort of also through my personal and professional network, try to talk to doctors, many doctors, what is the best treatment, what hospital to go to. So I try to sort of do what I always focus on in a difficult situation. I focus on what I can influence, not what I can't influence. And I can't influence what has happened, but I could influence sort of what type of treatment do we find, where does she go to, how do we get her ready, etc. So I try to sort of divert attention and energy away from why has it happened to Lucia, etc., to how can we help her.
Yeah.
And I think that is the best way I found to deal with it, by sort of being rather logical and rational and focused on what can be done and what can be changed.
Yeah. Which I can imagine is easier said than done at times.
Easier said than done. It sort of worked, but
Yes.
it's not easy.
No, but I think it's such a great way to look at things, because you could have spiraled at that point and actually, again, fighting for Lucia and let's get her the best treatment, let's get her kind of better as soon as we can. It's a great coping strategy to get you through. And so, Lucia, coming on to you, I can only imagine that when you're going through all the therapies you've spoken about and the rehab, it must be frustrating at times, physically painful, mentally draining. What kept you going through that time?
I actually felt, because of such disaster, I felt very, very strong support, very strong love from the loved ones, from Holger, from the family, from my teammates, and they have shown so much support to keep me strong. And I was actually quite inspired to go through all this. And regardless how much trouble Holger has to go through, every time I see him, he's always positive, he's always cheerful, and he always make me feel strong. make me feel that he is strong and he is giving me the energy. So
Right.
I think as my husband, even more as my coach, that has really inspired me, guided me through lots of difficulty times.
Yeah. I think everybody needs a Holger in their life, don't they, to keep
Um, uh,
keep championing
Very
you through.
thankful.
But it's that support network, isn't it, that
Yes.
helps you get through and keep fighting.
Yes.
And I know that you, despite everything, you then, as you say, went on to go do a half marathon straight away and got back into training. And did that help you having that focus and that drive?
Absolutely, absolutely. And because of the cancer, because of the accident, I felt stronger than before. And the the reason I want to go for the Ironman is because that for the doctors, they said that I recover so quickly after chemotherapy, after the treatment. They want me to inspire the other cancer patients. And I talk to them and encourage them come out to walk, to do sports,
Yeah.
to be stronger. Somehow they started to talk me like why God punished me, why I don't smoke and don't drink, and why I get lung cancer, and my friends did all the bad habits in life and they are okay.
Yeah.
And later on, I put Holger into my support team, and then some ladies which became my friends late cancer stage, then they start to say, why I don't have a husband like Holger? Why Holger do everything for you, but my husband doesn't know even how to take care of the kid. If I'm gone, and how do I take how I worry about the kids? So I'm actually very, very stressed dealing with individual cancer patients. I don't have the energy, don't have the power to really help each one to get through the difficulty times. I have lost quite a few cancer friends after their late stage, and I'm very, very stressed of such experience. And without Holger's support, I think I'm going down with them. So I changed my strategy that if I don't have the energy to support individual cancer patients,
Yeah.
then I want to show my power through sports, through media, through Ironman. They can reach the whole world,
Yeah.
and more powerful than my individually reach certain patients. And if they can spread my message of sports fighting cancer, and I think that's so powerful. That was why I got into Ironman Foundation, and I get so many supporters from Canyon, from other artists, from other sports item producers.
Yeah.
So they have so much bigger power to spread the message. Sports fight cancer.
Yes, definitely. But
Yes.
it's yes, those incredible sponsors who are supporting your journey, like Canyon, and I know you've got a number of other ones as well, which is absolutely brilliant to share that, because you can't necessarily go and see every cancer survivor and people who are going through treatment, but if they can see what you're doing, I know it will hugely inspire them. And just following on from that then, because the cancer came back again, didn't it? Do you want to just talk a little bit about that and where you're at now with the cancer?
Yes. The cancer came back in 2019. It started on the right and then came back again on the right side. So the second time, it's really has the whole treatment of chemotherapy and
radiotherapy as well.
radiotherapy, and then it came back again in 2023. 22.
Yeah, but to be precise, when it came back, maybe we did a little bit too little on the first one, but on the second occurrence on the right breast, there was a mastectomy,
Right.
chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. So pretty much shooting with everything
Yeah.
there is at the cancer. And then came the third time.
That's right. The third time was 2022. And so both sides, left and right. So both sides have done
The
the
mastectomy. But when it came back,
mastectomy.
it was only on the left. It was in an early stage on the left.
Yeah.
But now you had mastectomy to both breasts, one chemo, one radio, and still going strong.
So you're still going through treatment currently?
Right now, I go to the regular checkup every 3 months. They will scan the breast, and also there's symptoms to go to my ovule.
Right.
And so we really want to prevent it spreading.
Yeah.
And every day I take tamoxifen, so that is for the breast cancer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an
prevention.
estrogen blocker because they're feeding off carbohydrates and estrogen, which I think is rather standard for breast cancer patients.
Yeah. So you're still battling that and having that at the back of your mind whilst doing all this raising awareness and training for an Ironman. And I imagine that the chemo and the radio must have impacted you physically and how you were feeling. And I know you continued training through that. And Holger is your coach for your training. Holger, how do you set a training plan and adapt the training to support Lucia around how she's feeling? What does the training look like?
I mean, put it this way, with chemotherapy, you lose strength and you run the risk of sort of catching an infection when your immune system is down. So first step for Lucia was we got her to not train with anyone else because people, we didn't go to restaurants, we didn't go to concerts, we did a lot of sports in the mountains, but basically it was a bit like an early practice for Corona. Basically, you can stress your body a bit, but then don't meet people where you can sort of catch an infection, etc. So ultimately, with Lucia, we still did light training. For example, Lucia, she still jogged usually to the chemotherapy and slowly walked back, where other people, would go by taxi, etc. And there was always 1 week between. So the 1 or 2 days after the chemotherapy, we followed the doctor's advice and kept more of a rest, light walks in nature. But usually as you came closer to the second or to the next round of the chemotherapy, she still did running, no swimming, because swimming, you again have the risk of infection. So there was no swimming, but there was always sort of a lower intensity cycling and running, but it ultimately helped to get Lucia through the chemotherapy. So ultimately, 3 weeks after the finishing of the chemotherapy, she ran Amsterdam half marathon again, because her situation, her physical strength went down, but not to the extent that she was resting for months. And from a medical point of view, I mean, doctors need to judge every individual sort of differently. But if you are stronger, you can also handle the side effects of a chemotherapy better because your body, your immune system is stronger. So Lucia actually did go swimming, but not in swimming pools. But we went into mountain lakes, etc., where the risk is less of infections, etc. And of course, it was not a training; it was more just for fun. So I mean, I wouldn't call it really training for triathlon. I would more say keeping up a base fitness.
Yeah.
During that time, training might be a bit of an exaggeration.
I don't know though, because it's training the mind of how you can get through that tough situation. It's still keeping that fitness there, which is so paramount. So to be able to then just come out and do a half marathon, it's huge. And I imagine, Lucia, that training kept you going and gave you a focus during treatment.
Absolutely. And Holger, he became my coach. It's because I listen everything to the coach and maybe not the husband. So he feels better to be a coach. And he does the coach thing as particularly his German manager style.
Right.
He analyzed every situation, put everything in detail, and match my nutrition, match my physical condition, match my semi-handicapped for a long time. The arms and my whole body was not balanced because of the injury. Big damage on my left side, arm and legs. So I was running unbalanced. I was cycling unbalanced. I was swimming in circle unbalanced. So he really analyzed all my running style and cycling style and watch my steps, watch how I run. And so with his coaching style, I couldn't get it with any other professional coach.
No.
Put it this way, I think she exaggerates a bit,
Really?
but I think
Really?
what helps is if you know her medical history, you can more customize, what is needed. And I think what Lucia means, triathlon is a lot of planning.
Yes.
What you train, what,
Yeah.
how you for endurance races, how you don't overpace yourself at the beginning. And I think that sort of fits my logic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a good coach to a sprinter because it's not about technique and going 10 seconds, but sort of looking, how much do you need to eat? How much do you need to drink? How you need to pace yourself? How does that sort of link up to a medical history? That's sort of, there we complement.
Yeah, a great partnership, isn't it, that you two have got going? And so you are due to be taking part in the Ironman World Championships in Kona in October, which is so exciting. How is training going for that?
Um, the training is again very exciting because half year ago I had another accident in African hiking, and it twisted my left ankle. Maybe you can explain what they have done to my left ankle.
Okay, we hiked in South Africa, and Lucia stepped with her right foot in a hole, and the hole was so deep that the right foot didn't find ground. So the left foot collapsed, and ultimately, what happened there was that the syndesmosis ruptured. There was a fracture in the bone, and also a partial rupture of MCL. So ultimately, they fixed the fibula, the tibia, together with a screw.
Right?
And then for 6 weeks, Lucia couldn't do anything. She was in a moon boot, and the screw came out 3 weeks ago. And now that the screw is out, she can sort of power more. Before the screw was in, it was really just keeping going with swimming and cycling, but not with running, because what happens if you put too much pressure on, then the screw can break. And now taking out the screw was a matter of 10 minutes. But if the screw breaks, it's a rather complicated operation
Right.
because you need to get a broken screw out of your lower leg. So ultimately, Lucia's training was a lot of sort of endurance at a low intensity,
Yeah.
and training now will be sort of increasing intensity, facing in running. And in all honesty, the original plan was to do Kona in 12 hours. And now the plan is just survive, get to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's not just surviving and just getting to the finish line, because what you've been through, it will be an absolutely epic achievement running down that red carpet and crossing that finish line. And despite everything that you've been through, showing people that as cancer survivors, they can still achieve incredible things. And even if you are struggling and going through chemo, if you can keep fit and keep your fitness and strength up, then that's going to help you massively. It's going to be a huge day crossing that red carpet and getting you down there. And so, if people want to follow your story, Lucia, how can they do that?
I have actually a website which is Sports Against Cancer
.com.
.com. And it's not really about my daily training. It's just showing my life story and really encourage people to take up the spirit and to do sports. And it's not just to fight cancer. It's actually fight any disease and fight all obstacles in life. It's really get your spirit up, energy up. So I think that sports is what we go for, and that will enhance our life, change our life. So that is my website, and that's what people can find my story.
Brilliant. And I would definitely recommend following Lucia's story, because it's going to be an amazing few months and an event in Kona. And I can't wait to see you cross that finish line. And I can only imagine, Holger, you waiting at the end of that red carpet, like the emotions that are going to take over for you as well, Holger, because it's a real team effort when what you're doing. And you've been a big part of each other's journey. And so it's credit to you both for all the awareness that you're doing. And you're right, it's not just those cancer survivors, it's for anybody who's having that tough time getting out and getting some exercise, whether it's a half marathon, whether it's a walk around the park. I'm sure will have a huge effect.
That's right. And crossing the finish line, we're very excited because I'm going to wave my "fuck cancer," the slogan.
Yeah.
And my triathlon suit is designed in "fuck cancer" theme by a world famous artist. And so that is my triathlon suit, and our supporters T-shirt also in that design. And I can show you later. I can send you the pictures later.
Yeah.
And the Jackie Chai, who is a pop artist, and you know very well Jackie Chai, our friend, who is my biggest supporter.
Oh, and Jackie's actually London-based, and he has, apart from being a friend of ours, his father is right now battling an uphill battle against cancer, so he supports the cause very much. And so there's a lot of, as Lucia said, there's a lot of people who lend their support, because, as you said correctly, it's not about being at a world championship. Is everyone needs to find something which motivates them and keeps them going. But I think the motivation, whatever motivation it is, it keeps you going, is a good motivation in these situations. But if you can't find anything which keeps you going, sports is a good start.
Yes. Well, no matter what the sport, what it is.
No matter what the sport, exactly.
Yeah, just give something a go. And I know you've mentioned that your triathlon suit that Jackie's designed, you're going to be auctioning it off after the race to raise money. Is that right?
That is the idea. And the producer, Yvette, who is a very good sports, particularly for female, they're going to produce our triathlon suit, both for me and also for Holger and for my coach. And then they will produce many and sell it online, and all the profit will go to cancer charities.
Oh, it's so amazing the work that you're doing and that raising that awareness. And so, yeah, I urge everyone to come and follow your story online. And it's so exciting to see where you're going to go. And I can't even begin to imagine what you'll do after Kona. So maybe you can come back on the podcast and share where you're going to go after that.
After Kona, it's next year. It's road challenge. I got in. It's so exciting. It's very, very exciting to get into the race.
Yeah, it's a big race, and
Yeah.
nothing stops you, does it, Lucia, at all? You just keep going and raising that awareness. So thank you both so much for giving your time up to come and speak with us. Your story is so inspiring, and the love you have for each other, it just shines through and is so inspiring. And I urge people to come and follow your story, and we can't wait to see you cross that finish line in Kona. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Very much. Thank you, Jin.